Right, hello. So I've been working recently on, or for quite a while, on a potential explanation of the emergence of multicellularity. In particular, how groups of cells might have gained the properties necessary to take part in evolution by natural selection. So to model this kind of thing, we've in the past had this multi-patch model that's worked very well. In particular, we assume that the environment is broken up into many patches, all discrete patches, that have some kind of finite resource in each one of these patches. We start off the growth in each one of the patches with some individual cells that consume this resource. They go through some kind of birth, death, mutation process. And at some point, we stop the process, and we have some kind of dispersal event. So maybe this is modeling wind or some kind of ocean currents or something. And a small number of cells go from these patches that have been stopped, to some other part of the environment with a new set of replenished resources. And so this sort of introduces a bottleneck into the process, because of course we're only taking a few cells each time, maybe one, maybe a few. Then the dispersal process happens in two different stages. So at the patch level, we choose patches weighted on the total patch size. That's sort of fitness in terms of the patch. And once we choose those patches, we then go inside of each one of these patches and choose individual cells, again, weighted on the total abundance of each kind of cell, each type that's in each one of these. And by the way, the only thing that we distinguish is each type is distinguished by a growth rate. And if you run this over many generations, of course, the growth and dispersal both constitute one generation, we get very nice results. Now, I didn't put them in the slides because I didn't think I had very much time, but the results basically are, it's really the hallmark of this major transition, this transition to multicellularity. So it's very good results. But of course, this isn't very realistic, and it would be nice to add some biology into this. In particular, the dispersal is not very biological at all. Just sort of, we just disperse somehow. And also, of course, this wouldn't necessarily happen in a synchronous way. It wouldn't happen necessarily for every single patch. So how might we extend this a bit? So one thing is to consider a primitive or a basic life cycle. So if we just assume that, and this is of course motivated by ongoing experiments by biologists or my collaborators. But anyway, so if we assume that each one of these patches in the same kind of way starts with some kind of amount of resource, the cells consume it, they go through some kind of birth, death, mutation process, and at some point, the patch gets too large and then it sort of breaks up and falls into some collection pool below. And then, of course, at that exact moment, we can then select from the pool and then start over the process with replenished resources in that same patch. So this is one way to sort of break up this synchronous model. And notice that this really kind of works in that sort of two-stage process. Again, the selection still works in the sense that larger patches contribute more cells or more individual cells to the pool when they drop them in. And of course, we can then select from the pool again, weighted on the most abundant type that's in that pool. So if you can imagine many different patches doing this same kind of thing, then this kind of gets us to a non-synchronous kind of model. And then we can sort of add some criteria for why these patches then fall into the pool. And so this has so far been working quite nicely. I'm still working on this part at the moment, but we're sort of wanting to add some extra components here as well. Like, for example, in the pool, maybe we've got some kind of growth going on. And also maybe we have these different cells sort of can clump together or cluster together and form different kinds of sort of collections of cells for when they sort of create these patches. And so far it's been successful. Thank you.